But I mean, it's if you don't understand this, like this feels like it's just so basic information, basic, easy to understand type of conversation. And if you don't understand this, I think something is wrong with you on the inside. Something is wrong with your soul, your spirit, man, and you need to seriously go to church, go to some corner, pray to whoever you pray to, and work on your own life. All right. Okay. So the next on the line is Mr. Ben Shapiro. Now, I don't want to keep picking on people because that's not what this channel is about. But with people who have a big platform, when people have the ears of a lot of people, it feels to me at least that we have to continue to critique and challenge these kind of people. Like essentially, I'm gonna be up there, wink, wink. And I would want people to continuously challenge me on my positions because that's only what makes people better. But in this video, this was like a year old, so I'm letting you know now. This is a year old, and I've never seen this. And after watching this, it really had me question Ben Shapiro's motives when it comes to learning and receiving information from people who are well equipped with information and knowledge. It's the difference between debating someone and just being there just to get your point across, to say your talking points, and that's it. You don't care about what the other person is saying to you. You just want to get what you want to say because you're getting paid to do that. But the kind of conversations I love is when I have information that the other person is listening to and I am receiving their information also. That's what makes a good constructive conversation. Ben doesn't understand that. He's talking to Neil deGrasse, I think, Tyson, Neil Tyson, and it just confuses me on why Ben is acting the same now after having this deep understanding conversation with Tyson. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Against the advent of science. One of those areas is the area of transgenderism. The argument that is typically made by gender theorists is that gender is entirely separate from sex. You've seen the argument made that it makes no difference on average if men are stronger than women are, and that if we were to allow transgender women to compete with non-transgender women, then this would somehow not disadvantage biological women. And this seems to me absolutely ascientific, that if we're actually going to have a discussion about gender and sex, that should be based in data, which suggests that mammals are in fact binary in terms of their sex, unless you have intersex birth defects typically, or genetic defects.
I'm happy to opine on this.
Okay, so let me just intervene real quick, and like I said, this is my YouTube channel. Okay, so if I want to talk, I'm gonna talk. If you don't like that, go find another channel. But if you don't know who Tyson is, and I just know just pretty much probably what you know, he is a scientist. He knows all about that scientific stuff that I failed in school. If you want to know something about, especially what he kind of masters in, he will be the authority voice of that subject. Now, Ben is asking him about, biological, scientific questions that I wouldn't know. And whatever, take with a grain of salt, but whatever Mr. Tyson would say, I would take very close note to. Okay, like, let's make sure we're clear with that. If you don't know too much about a particular subject and you're talking to somebody who dwells very closely in that subject, try to understand what he is saying. Try to grasp and possibly take as truth until you do your own investigation and research. But if this person is very credible with this kind of information, just don't talk and listen. So let's see what Mr. Tyson has to say.
this only matters because today we segregate nearly all sports by gender. Otherwise, why do you even give a shit? What someone identifies with. So we live in a free country, and with consenting adults and people free expression of who and what they are.
I mean, on adult level, I agree with you. I think it does matter what you teach
That's
your
what I'm
children.
saying. And so there's the matrix of what you are biologically, how you express yourself, who you choose as a sexual partner. If we actually live in a free country, as we tell ourselves, people's freedom to behave in any of those ways should not concern you at all. Nor are they requiring that you behave that way.
Ooh.
Okay? This is for their own freedoms, because we live in a free country. Now, what is unresolved here is, what do you do with sports? It's unresolved. And I've followed that closely, and I don't see any meaningful solutions to come down off of that. We know that hormones manifest differently in different people, and just the whole thing with steroids. Steroids are hormones, right? And we rallied against steroids in professional sports because it gives you an undue advantage. So, I've tried to think of what the future of sports would be in the world of a gender spectrum. And it may be, you don't specify whether it's a male or female sport. You just take measurements of what your hormonal balances are. And so you compete based on your hormones. I mean, this is thought I had. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to land.
The WNBA won't be in business for very long if that's the case.
It would just be, you'd have to find some way to compete people against each other if you still care that sports is an interesting activity.
I guess the
Okay, so obviously this is not a sufficient answer for Mr. Ben Shapiro, but I just love how Mr. Tyson wasn't trying to say too much. He's not trying to lose people with big impressive words, because I'm pretty sure he could do that. He was just being honest, and he was just being quick to the point to where you can understand where he is at in this with his position. It's people's freedoms to think of themselves however they want, and consenting adults to love and do whatever they want with another consenting adult. Why should we care? Why should we care? We have a well-known, thoughtful scientist saying the exact same thing that a regular old YouTuber like me has been saying for years. Why should we care? If this is the land of the free, home of the braves, why are we trying to convince people that they shouldn't be doing something that has nothing to do with you? That is the question I wish Ben would answer.
Area where it does come up in a non-sports area.
Yeah, tell me, 'cause I don't know.
So it would be, you talk in your book about the education of children and teaching children about science. And right
Yes.
now, children are being taught about the quote-unquote gender spectrum, which is not scientifically based. That is a theory-based idea.
No,
Meaning
wait, hold on. People express themselves on a spectrum. So you learn that.
That's
I don't.
that's a social
Yeah,
social
sure.
point, not a scientific point.
It's
Meaning we express ourselves
hold on.
based in different languages. Is that something you teach in science class, or is that something that you teach when you're teaching language?
So whether the fact that people want to express themselves on a spectrum, on a gender spectrum, whether that fact is something you want to put in a sociology class or in a science class, maybe that remains to be determined. But it is a real fact about real society.
Well, of course, nobody's denying that people identify how they want to identify.
So
You are
What is
denying
the
that.
relationship of that to biology? Meaning that the argument is made that trans women are women, for example. And what that seems to mean is that trans women are identical to women. Now, if people want to say trans women are not biological women, obviously that is the case. But people don't seem to want to say that. although that is obviously scientifically true. Trans women are not biological women. Biological women are biological women.
But where are you going with this? What are you trying to accomplish by asking yourself, is it science or is it not science? It's people in society.
But this is a perfect example of an area where suddenly it doesn't matter to say things that are just true. Like, why is it bad or wrong to point out?
I have another way to approach this. I care what is objectively true in the world as a scientist. But let me not say even as a scientist. I just simply care what is objectively true.
Yeah, just like everybody else.
Science happens to be a pretty potent path to invoke, to find out what is true. And so if people express themselves on a gender spectrum, and that is an actual thing in an actual society, if we have not fully explained that scientifically, that's an interesting frontier to study. If you want to say it's only sociological, then it's the purview of the social sciences. Mm-hmm. I don't care who studies it. It's an interesting fact about society that's worth learning about. To fight someone and say it's not biological, it's just your this. It's real and it's there.
Well,
it's real
because it manifests.
But it is real because it manifests. But the question of how to classify manifestation is a scientific question, meaning that, for example, there was a woman over at Brown University. Mm-hmm. She came out with a study that suggested that there was a phenomenon called rapid onset gender dysphoria, in which a member of a particular group would suffer from gender dysphoria, and this person's immediate peer group would suddenly have an onset of gender dysphoria. This paper was so controversial that Brown tried to pull it, and then was forced to reassign it later. You see this sort of treatment.
That's a different question. What you're asking now is, are there some topics that should not be studied scientifically?
Right.
And is there some taboo? And Sam Harris speaks a lot about this.
Yes.
And I think the concern is, if you study some topic that's a hot button topic, mm-hmm. and you bring scientific methods and tools to it, we don't trust. I'm interpreting here. I think
now check this out.
We as a society don't trust that people in charge in a free country won't try to legislate something that will constrict people's freedoms in the face of that information. I think that's the fear.
Well, isn't that?
It's a fear.
I mean, and isn't that?
We don't trust our own ability to govern ourselves in the face of what could be some information relative to other kinds of information.
Isn't that a bit of a problem?
Yes. Yeah. It's not. It means it's not a free society. It's not a society of free inquiry.
That's not the answer
which I think you need ultimately. But
okay. Let me pause right there. All right, check this out. Ben seems to either he understands it or he just wants to just continue to fight. I don't know why he is arguing what he's trying to say, because I understand it. Tyson said, we need freedom. This is a land of freedom where people can choose to, on this topic, feel who they want to be. If you feel more of a woman, you're a man, that is your choosing. We don't want people in charge to weaponize information to restrict people's freedom. We've seen that happen before with slavery. They tried to dehumanize black people, saying we're not, mentally capable of understanding like white people. We're not, we're just kind of beasts. We're animals, and we can't civilize like people. That was the justification of, the scientists and people alike in that time. And that's how they justified slavery for 200 some years. Dude, I understand that. That is not, and it's just confusing me because I'm just assuming Ben has read a lot more, has a lot more knowledgeable information than me. But this is just, look at him. He's just not happy with the answer, and he's digging himself in a deeper hole, because you can't argue that. We're supposed to be a land where people can live free, but then when Iraq or Iran does something to, women can't drive, women don't have a voice, they can't vote, they can't this, then we talk bad about those kind of countries. We, say that that's not how China's not supposed to be restricting media information. They're not supposed to be dictatorship and telling people what they can. But Ben is literally trying to force people, hey, if you're a man, you have to act like a man. You have to say that you're a man. What if they don't want to? Come on.
Yeah.
My general take on all of this stuff, from climate change to gender dysphoria to all of these issues, is bring out the science and then let's hash it out. I think that the problem I'm seeing on a lot of sides
is, what is your motivation?
Why?
Right?
Why does that matter?
It matters because if you have political power, you could end up creating legislation that subtracts freedoms from people who previously were enjoying the same freedoms as you. The history of that exercise
then make a better argument.
Doesn't end well.
But the history of which exercise? Bring out all the science and let's hash it out?
I'm saying if you bring out all the science and the politicians hash it out, the history of that exercise is a recipe for disaster if it involves discoveries that put people's freedom as defined in our Constitution at risk.
But now you're arguing for limitations on areas of particular study.
No, I'm arguing on we need a way to shield, we need a way to protect people's freedoms in the face of whatever gets discovered scientifically.
So I
agree.
I think that's what the Constitution is for, is to guard rights from.
But we're always fighting people who want rights are always fighting others who are saying they don't get the rights from the Constitution. This is a daily challenge on the progressive left. It is a daily challenge.
Yes.
Right?
And like I said, this video is a year old, and who would have known a year ago abortion rights would be dang near taken away. People are upset about gay marriage actually being in the amendments to protect gay marriage. People are upset about that. And right away, people, marriage is a institution that was created, millions of years ago to protect, the unity of a man and a woman getting married. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's cool information, but we can't use that kind of information to restrict other people from having the same freedoms that other people can have. That's understandable. If there was a scientist who discovered that, white people have a gene that makes them less human, should non-white people use that to be like, oh, you're not really classified as an entire human, so we're going to take away your humanity. We're going to take away your rights. And no, that would be wrong. That would be wrong. But I mean, if you don't understand this, like, this feels like it's just so basic information, basic, easy to understand type of conversation. And if you don't understand this, I think something is wrong with you on the inside. Something is wrong with your soul, your spirit, man. And you need to seriously go to church, go to some corner, pray to whoever you pray to, and work on your own life. Because if you're only interested in proving people wrong and using that as a justification to take away people's rights or things that you can enjoy and you don't want them to enjoy, you are a hateful person. I don't know what other word to use without getting in trouble by YouTube, but you are a hateful person. There's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no way to get out of that. That's what you are. And you're probably upset about this, and you're probably going to be in my comment section, but trust me, hey, let's have this conversation.
Here's an example. I I forgot how I ended up getting this phone call. It was some magazine that serves the gay community. And they want, I don't remember why, because they wanted my opinion on, they wanted my opinion about whether being gay was biological or mental.
Right, there's that new study that came out, this vast study.
Or psychological.
Right,
okay?
right.
And I said, I don't care which it is. Find out what it is, fine. But the answer to that question should have no consequence on legislations or laws. Because, for example, suppose it said it's purely biological, okay? Then you say, oh, that explains it. Suppose it says it's purely psychological. What are you going to do now? You say, well, now you're going to go to the reorientation camps or whatever those are called, where they realign you because they say it's psychological rather than biological. All of a sudden, people start behaving in ways in society that want to constrict the freedom of expression of who and what people are. And that is a danger. So maybe there needs to be a line in the sand. Let science do what it does, but politicians keep us free. Yet there's so many politicians that are doing the opposite of that.
So why aren't you a libertarian? I mean, I'm a libertarian. Come over here.
Oh, you're a libertarian. Bro, Ben, stop lying. You're a Bro, stop lying. Stop lying. Ben, stop lying. You is nobody's libertarian, bro. Nobody's libertarian. I love how Tyson said, let science do its thing. Let science do its thing. Let it do its thug dizzle. We get it. We need science, especially when it comes to, climate change and stuff like that. But when it comes to politicians need to keep us free. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you can't do that, you don't need an ounce. You don't need a pinky full of power in your possession. Science is to move mankind forward, upward, make things easier, accessible, not restrict and marginalize and dehumanize people. That's not what science is for. Science is like a gun. You can use it for protection, for self-defense, for hunting, for shooting competitions, whatever. But it can be used to kill, and probably hammer. I'm pretty sure you can use that as a hammer. But you understand my example. And I'm so glad. I am 1,000,000% happy, thrilled that I found this video, because now it makes me feel like I'm not the crazy one anymore. Like I've been preaching that we should not be in these people's business. As long as they're not hurting nobody, they're not taking from other people, they're not infringing on other people's rights, they're not infringing on your own personal space in your home, in your everyday living, leave these people alone. Why is that so difficult for these people? Because they're hateful. That's why.